A single phone call can upend a life. Sometimes, it's not the loudest moments that change everything, but the quiet ones, the ones that slip in unnoticed, disguised as routine. On a quiet March morning in 2024, in a typical suburban neighborhood, the ring of a phone set off a chain of events that would end in tragedy. The world outside was still, the air crisp, and the only sound was the distant hum of a car passing by. The day began like any other, lawns greening, neighbors waving, routines unfolding, children prepared for school, dogs barked in backyards, and the promise of spring lingered in the air. No one suspected that this ordinary day would be marked by a devastating misunderstanding, born from fear and deception. The neighborhood, so familiar, seemed immune to disaster. The man at the center of this story was an octogenarian, living alone in a world that felt increasingly unfamiliar. His days were quiet, his routines comforting but also tinged with loneliness. His morning was filled with the small rituals of daily life, reading the paper, making breakfast, unaware of the storm about to break. He moved through his home, savoring the peace, never imagining it could be so fragile. The threat didn't arrive with a bang, but as a voice on the phone, disguised as a plea for help. It was subtle, almost gentle, but carried a weight that would soon become unbearable. The call claimed to be from a loved one in trouble, urgently needing his help. The voice was convincing, trembling with emotion, and it pierced the quiet of his home. The man answered, and in that moment, his quiet morning was over. The seconds stretched, heavy with uncertainty, as he listened to the desperate plea. He was drawn into a carefully crafted lie, designed to exploit his trust and deepest fears. The world he knew seemed to tilt, and the safety of his home slipped away. The ordinary peace of his home was shattered, replaced by anxiety and urgency. Every object in the room seemed to vibrate with tension, as if the house itself sensed the danger. And so, the first domino fell. What began as a simple morning would become a turning point, a moment that changed everything. Forever. This was no random call, it was a grandparent scam, executed with chilling precision. The phone rang late in the evening, catching the elderly man off guard, his heart racing as he heard a familiar voice on the other end. In that moment, the world outside faded away, and all that mattered was the urgent plea for help. The scammers posed as his grandson, a lawyer, even a judge, each voice adding credibility to the crisis. Their tone was convincing, their details chillingly accurate, as if they knew the family's secrets. Every word was carefully chosen to build trust and heighten the sense of emergency. The story, his grandson was in legal trouble, needed $12,000 for bail, and secrecy was essential. The caller insisted that telling anyone could make things worse, isolating the man further. The pressure mounted with every passing second, making it nearly impossible to think clearly. Isolated and desperate, the man was told to gather the cash, place it in a package, and await a courier. He moved through his home in a daze, collecting his savings, hands trembling as he followed the instructions to the letter. The scammers orchestrated every detail, making the process feel official and urgent. They left no room for doubt, guiding him step by step, their voices calm but insistent. The final step, a courier would come to his door to collect the package. The man waited anxiously, watching the clock, convinced that every minute counted. For the man, this seemed like a legitimate, if strange, legal process. He clung to the hope that his actions would save his grandson from disaster, never suspecting the truth. Unbeknownst to him, the scammers used a rideshare app to hire a driver for the pickup. The technology allowed them to remain invisible, orchestrating the crime from afar. The driver, a stranger to both the man and the scam, was given a simple task: pick up a package at a suburban address. She accepted the job, thinking it was just another routine delivery. She had no idea she was being used as a pawn in a criminal scheme. The address was just another stop on her route. The package, just another item to deliver. The scammers, far away and anonymous, set two innocent people on a collision course. Their manipulation was invisible. Their presence felt only in the chaos they created. Technology made it all possible, remote, efficient, and devastating. With a few taps on a screen, lives were upended, trust shattered, and families left reeling. The older man waited, convinced he was protecting his family. He watched the door, unaware that he was caught in a web spun by strangers. The driver was on her way, unaware of the danger ahead. She followed the GPS, her mind on the next job, never imagining the consequences of this delivery. The trap was set. In the shadows of the digital age, the unseen web tightened around them both. The rideshare driver, a 61-year-old woman, started her day like any other, responding to app requests, running errands, living her life. She was a mother, a retiree, a gardener, and today, just a courier for a package pickup. The job seemed routine: drive to a suburban home, collect a package, deliver it elsewhere. She accepted the request, unaware of the story unfolding on the other end. Her dashcam recorded the drive. Just another day, another fare. She focused on the address, following the app's directions. She was a professional, performing a simple service. The context of the package was unknown to her. As she neared the house, she prepared for a standard transaction. She was the physical link in a digital chain, an ordinary person doing an ordinary job. She could not have known she was about to walk into a nightmare. The driver pulled up to the curb. The older man was waiting, gripped by fear and uncertainty, his eyes darting between the shadows and the approaching headlights. The night was unusually quiet, amplifying every sound and making the air feel heavy with anticipation. To him, she was not a courier, but an accomplice in a plot against his family. The warnings he'd received echoed in his mind, twisting every innocent detail into something sinister. He had armed himself, convinced by the scammer's lies. His hands trembled as he clutched the weapon, rehearsing what he would say if things went wrong. The driver parked, got out and approached the door, ready to announce her purpose. She had no idea of the storm of suspicion waiting on the other side. Dashcam footage shows her identifying herself as a rideshare driver, there for a package. Her voice was calm, practiced, and polite, just another stop on her route. For her, it was routine. She checked her phone, double-checked the address, and waited for the door to open, expecting nothing out of the ordinary. For him, it was a confrontation. Every second felt stretched, his heart pounding as he prepared for the worst. Two realities collided, one of calm professionalism, the other of paranoia and fear. Neither could see the other's truth. The man confronted her with a weapon, believing he was facing a criminal. His voice was shaky, but his resolve was hardened by the scam's manipulation. The driver, confused and frightened, tried to explain and back away. Her hands went up instinctively, her mind racing for a way out. She said she would call for help, her voice trembling as she dialed, hoping someone would answer before things escalated. But the man, trapped in the scam's logic, saw her as a threat that couldn't be allowed to leave. Every movement she made seemed to confirm his worst fears. In seconds, a simple delivery became a deadly standoff. Two strangers, both victims, caught in a web of deception and fear. The confrontation escalated in an instant. The driver tried to retreat, her dashcam capturing her pleas and intent to call 911. The man, convinced she was part of a criminal plot, blocked her escape. He told her she would not be leaving. In his mind, he was protecting his family, not committing a crime. The scammers had turned him into an unwilling weapon. The driver's attempts to clarify were drowned out by his fear. He fired his weapon, once, then again. The driver, gravely wounded, collapsed on the quiet street. The scam, which began with a phone call, ended in gunfire. Two lives, manipulated by unseen hands, collided in tragedy. The crime prevented was a fiction. The real crime had just occurred. In the aftermath, the older man called 911 himself. He believed he had defended his home, not realizing he'd been manipulated into violence. Emergency services arrived to a scene of confusion and horror. Paramedics rushed the driver to the hospital, but her injuries were fatal. A mother, a retiree, lost her life on a stranger's doorstep because of a scam she never knew existed. The man was taken into custody, bewildered and devastated. Police began piecing together the story, his 911 call, dash cam footage, and the evidence at the scene. It quickly became clear this was no ordinary crime. It was a tragedy born of manipulation and fear. 2 families were shattered, and a community left in shock. The true perpetrators remained invisible. The investigation was painstaking. Dashcam footage provided a clear record of the encounter. The man recounted the scam calls, the fake grandson, the lawyer, the judge, the urgent plea for secrecy. Detectives traced the scam's origins, but the perpetrators remained hidden behind layers of technology. The case was complex. A man manipulated into violence, a driver lured to her death. A civil lawsuit followed, naming both the shooter and the unknown scammers. The tragedy was both immediate and remote. Physical violence, psychological manipulation, justice would be sought on multiple fronts. The case went to trial. The prosecution presented dashcam footage and testimony, arguing the man chose deadly force against an unarmed woman. The defense argued he was a victim, driven by fear and deception. The jury faced a difficult question. Could he be fully responsible given the manipulation he endured? After deliberation, the verdict was delivered: guilty of murder. The man was held accountable for the act, but the deeper questions lingered. The scammers who set the tragedy in motion remained at large. The story's legal chapter closed, but its moral questions remained. This was not a simple story of good and evil, but a collision of technology, deceit, and fear. A quiet home, a routine job, and a scam converged in tragedy. Vulnerability was everywhere, in the man's love for his family, in the driver's trust in her work, in the system's openness to exploitation. The tragedy exposed the gap between our digital tools and our ability to protect the vulnerable. The victim was remembered as a mother, a gardener, a friend, not a statistic. The older man, now convicted, was also a victim of manipulation. 2 families grieved. A community was left searching for answers. The scammers remained unseen, ready to strike again. The echo of this story lingers. A phone ringing, a misunderstanding, a life lost. How do we protect the vulnerable from threats we cannot see before tragedy strikes again?